the CEO of Trident Techlabs. And because today the topic was given the semiconductor, but I will just brief you what the company do. And after that, my CTO, Mr. George D'Souza, is going to talk about the semiconductor. We are basically a knowledge-based company. And knowledge-based company in the area of the power distribution, knowledge-based company in the area of the defense and aerospace, defense cyber security, and the semiconductor is our new area. So company is from the last 7 years is doing a great job. We have a very nice team with us, and today we are talking about what the semiconductors we are going to do. So I am handing over to Mr. D'Souza, who is the CTO, to talk about what is the market of the semiconductor in India is coming up. And after that question answer, I will arrange that. Thank you very much.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So before I start my talk, I would like to thank the organizers of Bharat 3.0 for giving us a sweet time slot. Now, why do I say a time slot which is sweet? It's because we have had sessions since morning on topics on robotics, clean rooms, surveillance, could be some cameras, and followed by sessions on defense equipments, battery storage, etc. Now, for all of this, the backbone is semiconductor. And that is a topic that we're going to talk about, and how we as a company would help in the growth of the new era of revolution in India called the Atmanirbhar, and the program called the Semiconductor India. So this is the talk of the day, and I would be going through some of the aspects or the ecosystem of this whole semiconductor world. To give a brief idea, most of us are here, the audience are all intellectuals. It's not that people do not know about it, but just a brief understanding about what is semiconductor. Now, semiconductor is nothing but a simple electronic component. It is made up from a semiconductor material, typically silicon. Now we have more materials coming in based on the power consumption, etc. But it contains multiple interconnect transistors and other circuit elements. Now this is the backbone of all the modern electronics that we have today, right from consumer electronics, automotive, could be telecom, industrial IoT, or even healthcare. Now these are all the various areas that semiconductor has attracted value or giving more value chain to all these systems that are being developed. So when I talk about the semiconductor as a philosophy, it has an ecosystem. Now this ecosystem consists of a supply chain. To support the supply chain, you have what is called as a value chain. And to support the supply and the value chain, there's something called as a market potential, because that is what drives a supply chain or a value chain. Now, when we talk about supply chain, now these are the different factors or the stages through which a semiconductor goes through, or a semiconductor supply chain goes through. The foremost and the most predominant one is the design phase. Now, this is where the design or the expected product that you want or you're thinking about is where you develop the whole logic and then put it onto a particular chip or trying to get it onto a chip. Now this is done by fabless semiconductor companies, big shot companies like Qualcomm, it could be even Broadcom. These are big fabless companies who put their brains and minds in developing designs or high computing chips which can do multiple functionalities. Or it could be independent design companies who would do all the design work and give it to the fabricating companies. This is an area which India is well known for. So if you see the global market of semiconductor, we have more than 20% of the workforce or the skilled manpower that is taken up for this particular work itself. So we are proud enough to say that we are one of the biggest players in the semiconductor industry for the design phase. And this is an area which is of high demand, which has more potential going down the line. Once we have the design, we go in for the IC manufacturing, where the electronic circuits are put onto the wafer. Now this would be done majorly by the foundries, which we all know as the major ones is TSMC, we have the global foundries. And with the program of Atmanirbhar coming in, we would have very soon our own IC manufacturing center in India, which I'll be touching base on a little later. So once we've done the IC manufacturing, the next phase that which India is again targeting is the OSAT or the ATMP sector. Now the OSAT is nothing but where you have the assembly and test. So once a chip is designed, it is manufactured, it goes through a test process. Now that's where the OSAT centers or the ATMP centers come in. And that's another area which India is predominantly investing its resources, its manpower, as well as its facilities. And that's where even the Atmanirbhar program is also coming into picture. So once you have done the OSAT or the ATMP, you come to what is called the end product integration. Now this is where you realize the product or realize the application that you have designed the particular chip for, and which is usually done, let's say, by the EMS companies where they integrate it onto the actual chip, and then it is given out to the consumer market based on the applications. Now the applications could be a mobile, it could be a medical device system, it could be an IoT-based system, it could be for the automotive, you name it, everything is covered by semiconductor, and that's going to change the way we do business. So to support the supply chain, you need to have a value chain. And when I say value chain, is the people who would take up these works or take up this particular scenarios at each and every different stages. Now the first one would be people who call themselves as IDMs, so that is integrated design manufacturers. Now these are the people who do the whole process right from the start, that is the design, until the end process realization. So they have the complete facility of design, manufacturing, test, and integration into the actual required product. So companies like Samsung, which we all know, Intel, Texas Instruments, Micron, a big name in most of the memory devices, well-known player, and who also is investing in India. So coming now to the different phases. First one is the design phase. As I told you, these are fabless companies or independent design companies who are solely into design of a particular application-based systems. So that's where we have AMD, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and NVIDIA. We know right now NVIDIA is doing wonders in high computing devices or high computing chips. So that's the area where India is focusing in developing skilled manpower, developing resources, and wherein there are a lot of companies, you would have seen there's so many startup companies that are coming up to fill this particular gap, which is globally available. So to support this particular design center or the design phase, you also require IPs, you require softwares. So the IPs are given by the companies called ARM, or you can have Imagination, where they have predefined codes which has already been designed, verified, and validated, which can be used into the design. As well as to support the design process, you require design softwares, and we have tools from, say, Siemens, which gives you an end-to-end solution, right from the concept until the realization, verification, validation, and test environment. So the whole solutions can be given like companies from Siemens, it could be Synopsys, it could be Cadence. So these are the tool vendors. And to support the fabrication and the test, you have different companies like, for the fabrication you have TSMC, you have Global Foundries, and when it goes for the OSAT or the ATMP, you have big names called Teradyne, etc. And to support these fabrication units and the OSAT, you require materials, you require instruments or machinery that is provided by the equipment and the raw manufacturing companies, big names like ASML, Lam Research, etc. Now we have talked about the supply chain, we have talked about the value chain. So to drive this market, you also require to know what could be the market potential, because that's what would help these two sectors to really survive. So talking about the market or the global market that is potential that is available. So right in the year 2021, this is a report by McKinsey and company. They had projected that in 2021, the market was around 560 billion. And that the expectation by 2020, it would be around 1,000 billion, close to 1 trillion USD dollars. That's a big market. And if you look at the sectors where most of the investment or the most potential would be is on the compute and data storage. We had sessions in the morning which talked about data centers, clean rooms, or it could be on surveillance, where there's huge amount of data that is computed, analyzed, and that requires huge amount of storage devices, huge amount of high-performance computing. Now, all of this is serviced by semiconductor. And that's the biggest potential. If you see, around 350 billion is the market potential right now. Now, this is going to increase with the new additions of the new areas of development in AI, ML, with huge tons of data is being computed. So this could be just a predictable value, but it would go much, much higher. So this next area is on the wireless communication, which is around 280. So going up above, you have automotive industry, you have the telecom industry, you have the communication. So over and all, by 2030, the projection is going to be a 1 trillion business. And in this particular segment, we at India would be targeting at least 10% of the global market. So once we have the supply chain, you have the value chain, you have the market potential, which is global. Now what is that India is doing, or what is the initiative by the government of India? So government of India started the initiative called the SEMICON India, or this Semiconductor initiative. And that's where the government of India started projecting India as an era of revolution, or India, or an area, or I would better put it as the era of manufacturing centers, which would help in becoming a self-reliant country. Now this could be majorly because of all the turmoils that we have seen over the years, where we had a lot of disruptions, we had component shortages, we could not deliver on time, and this initiative is going to really change the way people would look at India as a country which will grow not only economically but in various other sectors. So talking about the initiatives, so there are 3 manufacturing units that will be set up in India. The biggest one would be by Tata Electronics in alliance with PSMC. PSMC is nothing but the power chip manufacturer or the semiconductor lab. It's a very big corporation. So in alliance with them, they would be setting up a big IC manufacturing center that will be at Gujarat. They would also have a OSAT or the ATMP, which is nothing but assembly test, marking and packaging center, which will be at Assam, followed by Adani, which also would be collaborating with a Taiwanese semiconductor company and which will be setting up the IC plant. In addition to this, we also have CG Power, which will also set up one of its centers, which will be for a dedicated application. So all of these IC manufacturing centers would be dedicated for different applications that would be setting up. Now to support these IC manufacturing centers, there are other companies like Keynes Corporation would be setting up the OSAT, that is outsourced assembly and test, along with having a back-end design center also, followed by Micron, which would also be setting up an ATMP center. So looking at all of this and the initiatives to develop the skill development, SEMICON India, as all you know, has given huge incentives and subsidy to develop the skill development. So some of the programs could be the C2S, which is called the Chip to Silicon, wherein this initiative is to groom skill manpower at the academic level. Now you would have seen most of the institutions would be allocated licenses from all of these EDA companies. It would be Siemens, which has a complete end-to-end solution, or Synopsys. Now this would be given to the academic institutions as a program where students can now start using these softwares and then get to the whole design process. And over the years, that is the target line is around 2 to 3 years, we would have sufficient manpower to double our stake in the global market from 20% to around 50 to 60%. I should say more than that. So that's the initiative under the Chip to Select program. Then you have the PLI program, that is a production-linked incentive, where the government is giving subsidy on the production-based linking the incentive, where as you go on with the production, as per the application, the government would also give you subsidy. And to top it out, to help the startup company world, they have started the scheme called the DLI, that's the design-linked incentive, where the licenses from all the top 3 major EDA companies or the IP core companies, these licenses would be leased out or provided to all these startup companies based on the programs that they select. So it is program-defined incentive where the licenses will be provided over a 3-year program so that they can come out with designs and particular application-based chips. So it's a huge boost, and this particular market is something which is going to change the way India is going to be looked on. So after you talked about the global market, what could be, the next question would be, what could be the market of India or the potential in India? So by 2026, the expectation is going to be 64 billion. Now this is going to be around 3 times what had been the market growth or the market potential in 2019. So it's a 3-time boost that we want to have. And by 2030, we are going to expect a market potential of 110 billion. That is 10% of the global market. Now this is just numbers which is given by ISA and Counterpoint Research, but I'm sure by the time of 2030, this number would be much, much higher. So looking at the revenue, 2024, it was estimated that we had a revenue of around 7.69 billion, and by 2029 or by 2030, we would be close to around 15 billion. So this is a big boost that being Atmanirbhar, these numbers would really go up. The reason I'm using Atmanirbhar is because it gives immense pride in knowing that, yes, tomorrow we are going to be a self-reliant country where we don't have to be dependent on imports, which were close to around 70 to 80% over the years. By 2030, I'm sure that we would have the import, but just down by only 10%. That's the main area. That's the reason I'm harping on the Atmanirbhar program. The investment from the government of India is around 10 billion. That's in the manufacturing, and this is just a number which is increasing every now and then, depending on the requirement. And of course, the growth drivers is going to be automotive, telecommunications. These are the 2 main areas that India is working on the wireless. So if you'll see on the extreme left side of mine, you will find the various sectors. It could be on the wireless communication. That's the major area that India is working on, followed by the automotive and the consumer. So these are the 3 areas wherein a lot of development is happening so that we have chips which are ready, which can be, instead of imported, exported out more than what we were doing earlier. So moving on, we have talked about the supply chain, we have talked about the value chain, we have seen the global market, we have seen the Indian potential, we have seen the investment of the government of India. So we as a company, Techlabs, we would like to showcase to you what is that we play a role in the growth of the Semiconductor India or SEMICON India program. So just to give a brief about our company, we are, as my CEO had just said, we are an NSE listed company. It was started by 2 enterprising entrepreneurs, Mr. Sukesh Nethani and Praveen Kapoor. They had a vision of doing something different, something which was going to help the community of India. And that vision, I'm sure, in the coming years is really going to come true, and it is going to give a big shape. We are headquartered in New Delhi, and we have locations across India. We have these strategic locations basically because we serve the government of India's different programs and different utilities, that is the defense, the DRDOs, the public sector units, the small-scale industries, as well as the private industry. So we have offices at Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Kolkata, and Hyderabad. So if you look at these locations, these are the strategic locations across India where a lot of R&D, a lot of design work keeps happening. We give solutions in different areas, so all the niche areas in the electronic design automation. It could be on multi-body dynamics, it could be on power systems, it could be on mechatronics, you name it. We have all the engineering sides that we work on. So talking about our vision and business goals. So the vision is to be a trusted and an innovative provider of technology, providing high-end solutions. Now this is the main vision that we have. And towards this vision, what we say is if financial year 24-25 would be it's called the inflection year for the company. That's where we're going to have major changes, we're going to have major strides from this year on in different technology areas. Now how do we do this? Now to help us get into this, we have onboarded exceptional talents from the industry who have vast experience. Dr. Sati, who is a distinguished DRDO scientist who has held the position of DG Naval, who has executed numerous projects and helped us to also execute these projects across the DRDO labs. He's one of our key members on board. And to advise us on the semiconductor, so we have Mr. Raghu Panikar, who's our business advisor, who helps us and gives us strategies on how do you develop the semiconductor industry. So these two people, along with many other people that we would be inducting on our board, would help us to grow this vision and this mission that we have. To boost our presence in the semiconductor industry, we have in the process of getting into a global semiconductor company who is having offices across India as well as offshore. Now, this helps us to gaining much more potential in the domestic market as well as in the offshore markets. It could be the US or the European market. So wherein we can spread our wings and then do a much better job. We have also successfully completed a pilot project in the area of cybersecurity for the DRDO, and we see that this is another area that we can grow our potential. Other than this, we are exponentially growing in other areas. It could be on the power system segment, where we do a lot of studies for the SCOMs across India. It could be on the transmission study as well as the distribution study. We also have solutions in the defense, where we have taken a number of projects and we are executing them successfully. So this is the whole portfolio of our solutions that we offer. It could be in various segments. This is just running out of time. So as we talk about global change, there are three areas that we work in, which is really concentrated on the IC design, IC manufacturing, and the IC assembly test. And the area that we are concentrating on is in the IC design. This is a huge potential, which has huge market potential. That's the reason we are putting our focus on this particular area. And going forward down the line in the next 4-5 years, we would be venturing into the manufacturing as well as the test and assembly and test. So this is the various solutions of the services that we give in the semiconductor space. It could be on the assay, it could be in the SOC as well as the mixed design. This is all the various of the services that we do. Also, we are into the AI-based, or we call it semiconductor-infused, AI-infused chips, where we give solutions based on AI-based chip design. It could be on having a faster design iteration, a faster design testability. So these are all the areas that we work in. And to sum it up, this is all the whole gambit of solutions that we give. So as a supply chain in the services segment, we give it right from this system architecture, system design, architecture design, design for test, analog and mixed signal solutions, physical verification, going in for the design for test, and post-silicon validation, and the biggest part is the skilled manpower. So with the experience and the expertise we have, we are also developing skilled manpower, which can be given in clusters to different organizations as well as research centers, so that this particular market share that is presently occupied by India, that's 20% of the skilled manpower, this can grow to around 40 to 45%. So this is another area that we're concentrating on. So with different programs like Center of Excellence, initiatives as such would help us in developing a complete skilled environment manpower, which can be deployed as and when required. So thank you, and I would request Sukesh Netania, CEO, to come over the stage, and if you have any questions, you're free to ask. Thank you for your time. So really sorry for taking some extra time.
Yeah. So thank you for the presentation. The questions that are coming from the audience, one of them is that among the segments that you have shown where semiconductor usage will increase and the growth drivers that you mentioned in the presentation, what is the skill set of Trident Techlabs to build and target all of these high growth segments?
Should I? Okay. So we have started our offices, or our inception of Techlabs has been in 2000, and since then we have been in this particular area. And our main focus has always been in developing manpower, and we have been executing a number of projects in this particular area, and we are well versed with the technology. And with the onboarding of industrial experts, now this skill manpower development becomes much easier. And the new programs that we're starting is the Center of Excellence. The main purpose of this is to develop manpower not only for in-house usage, but also to give it out to the industry. So we are confident with our association with this industry for such a long time, we would be able to execute or fulfill the market potential, which is going to be beyond 20% for the skill manpower.
The another question is that India just started to build its competency in the semiconductor business, right? It is something new that India is doing. So how do you really get that skill set, manpower, and that kind of trained staff to really execute the projects that we are talking about?
No, it is not a new division. We are
emerging or so-called.
We are experienced in semiconductor from last 20 years. We are doing these designs for the defense and DRDO organization. And now we want to take it to the more wider area. That's why the acquisition is happening based on, because when you see the semiconductor, there are the 4 arms of the semiconductor. One is the digital one. We have just recently acquired the digital one. Now we are going to acquire one analog kind of company, and then we can have the embedded kind of technology. So if you have the three parameters in your basket, then you can have the complete design. So design is the big area which is right now lacking in India. Because as soon as you complete that, because you can have the manufacturing, but you need the people to design. So that's we are a specialization on design. And our experience on design is not 1 year. It is last 23 years we are in design.
Thank you, sir, and please be on the dais for the mementos.
Thank you.